We're going to go green today, and I'm going to show you how to make paper towel substitutes. They're made out of cotton flannel. They're very stylish, and they're a great alternative to paper towels, and they're much more eco-friendly as well. And they can be used for anywhere that you would use a paper towel. When they're dirty, you just throw them in the washer and the dryer along with like a regular load of laundry, so you don't have to make a separate load of laundry just for your towels. They're just little and they'll fit in. They're also safe in the microwave because they're 100% cotton, so you can use them as to cover dishes while you're cooking. And if you put them on the counter near your paper towels where you normally keep them, you use one of these instead. We have some sitting on the back of the toilet in the bathroom, and we hardly ever use the paper towels except for cleaning up something that's really gross, or that we just don't want to use, something that we have to wash over again. And they're also great for napkins, for drying your hands, for daily cleanup. And these have been pre-shrunk in hot water, so I get the cotton flannel and I wash it and dry it in hot water and the hot dryer, so that everything is shrunk up as small as it can be, and that the dyes will not bleed in the next regular laundry. That way, if you have a gray one or an orange one, you can put it in with a white shirt and it won't run. So you just want to get all of the dyes out. They after you wash and dry them, they get like a little puffed up, and they have great, even in the, sometimes I would iron these before I would give them as gifts, but I'm not going to do that again this year because I think it flattens down the flannel and doesn't make them absorbent, so they need a couple wash cycles to get fluffy again. So using cloth napkins and the unpaper towel, as we call it, are a wonderful way to reduce the paper consumption in your household. They'll also save you a lot of money, and you won't have to buy so many paper towels. They're good for the earth, and they're a treat you can enjoy every day. I just want to share one little thing with you. We used to buy 2 packages of paper towels that were about 8 or 12 rolls in the package for every 2 weeks. And now I'm down to buying 1 package of 8 paper towels every 3 months. So knowing that they cost between $16 and $24 a package, I've saved a lot of money, and you might have a little bit of money to invest in getting the cottons or buying the unpaper towel from someone, but they will more than pay back the amount of money that you're going to spend in paper towels. And the trees are happier, and I have a lot less paper towel lint in the house. I noticed we were getting a lot of white fuzzy dust, and I was like, what is this from? And it was actually from the paper towels being ripped apart. So I just wanted to share with you, last year for the holidays I made this size of a paper towel. And it was actually, what I did is I divided my yardage so that I wouldn't waste anything except the selvages and a few snips off the sides to square up my fabric. So these came out like 8 by 12, some of them were 7 by 12, and they were enough to dry your hands. But then I got a few suggestions from a friend who said, why don't you make them the regular paper towel size, then they would be really great, so I could use them for my placemat and other things. So I thought, well, okay. So this year I made them the 12 by 12 size. They look, I think everybody's gonna like them a little bit better because they're just like a true paper towel size, 12 by 12. So I had a little bit of scraps left over. It wasn't like a lot. I can just show you, there's a few pieces here that were, maybe like this big would be left over at the end. This is definitely something I can use in a quilt, or make a pot holder with one of them, but I just ended up with some scraps left over, and seriously, it won't go to waste. It'll go in a quilt or a pot holder. So I just wanted to show you all the different, I have like 44 different prints here. So I just wanted to show you that you can make men, women, kids, babies happy with these. There are so many different available prints out there that they aren't just for girls to use, and you can make masculine or nature looking prints, sports. You can just do a variety of all kinds of prints and give a little packet of all the prints to people, or you can do one or two, you know, depending on what their favorite things are. And at any rate, when you go to get one of these off the counter to dry your hands, it just kind of makes you happy. There's no paper towel that has cute little foxes on. Okay, so I'm just going to go flip through these real quick and show you the different prints that I had, and I'm not done yet. But there's skateboards and coffee, golfing. These were eagles. There's some eagles on there. And there's cats with some tie-dye in the background, horses, flamingos, hearts, and unicorns. This is a little crunchy here where the sparkle is, but the back is not affected at all, and it will still dry your hands or do whatever purpose. I wouldn't put that in the microwave though, because that's just some kind of plastic on there. We got mermaids, more foxes, and here's the other thing: you don't have to have like a novelty print. You don't have to have a fox or a llama or something like that. You can just do regular solids. There's lots of solid flannels out there, and they're actually much cheaper than the printed ones, but this is just kind of a generic cute print. There's cats, great things for babies and other animals. I like these for myself. Giraffes, and then there's paw prints and hearts. Of course, these great baby sharks and elephants, and then you can go the Disney route. There's a whole lot of Disney flannels out there. Of course, it can't be Mama Llama Razzle Dazzle without a llama in the pack. There's another one that's just kind of a generic print, so you don't have to worry that somebody wouldn't like the animals or whatever. Stars are always good. Hedgehogs, cats. And for your angler, we got fish, frogs, and another Disney print, Tinkerbell. Of course, you can't sell the Disney prints. You can only use them to give for gifts for yourself and for your friends, but you can't sell anything Disney because it's licensed and you don't want to get in trouble. There's a great moose and bear kind of print. And then you can go everything plaid. If you don't know what to give somebody who doesn't like a nice warm plaid looking flannel shirt thing, then you can go with colleges. So here's Pitt. And there's another one that's just kind of a generic plaid, so you could use that one for placemat. And then there's dogs and Mickey, and then we've got some bunnies here that are cute, and more little foxes. This one was kind of unique. It's musical, the treble and bass clefs, and it makes a really nice design, and it's good for musician. Anybody that likes music. We got more elephants, stars, bears, and mooses. Meese, moose, buffalo. This one I thought was cute. Great for a woodworker or somebody who likes nature, the animals. This has deer, and looks like somebody did a scroll saw cutting of all the animals. I just thought that was interesting, and so that would be liked by any man for sure, but women like animals too, and being out in the woods. And then there's football. So you can get many more flannel prints than I have showed you here. I just wanted to show you something else too. Last year when I gave my paper towels to people, I thought it was a really great gift, because not only is it something I made for them, but it's also something that can save them a lot of money over the year. If I give them between a dozen and 18 of these, that's enough to get them into a wash load and still have some to circulate out, and then they'll always save on paper towels. But one of the things I did, because it was the first year I did it, is I explained what this is. I told them about it being a paper towel substitute and all the ways they could use it and how to wash and dry it. And then I put some little visual aids, that you're saving trees, saving paper towels, and saving money. So there were some neighbors I gave these to, and I just tied it with a ribbon around them, and I got no negative feedback. Okay, so we're gonna make flannel paper towels so that they are recyclable. Last year, just a rough guess, as I was figuring how much we spent on paper towels and how much we spent since I started using these paper towels that are flannel, and they're not really paper, but they work as a paper towel. We saved over $600, and that was just 2 people. So I gave some to friends and family, and a lot of people wanted to know where I could get them, or where they could get them, and so I decided I was going to make a bunch and put them on my website. Okay, so the first thing we have to do with flannel is pick out things you think people might like, because, and also pick things you might like, because if they don't sell, you're going to get to use them all, you know. So this time, you know, for holidays, I picked out ones that I knew my family like foxes, and some people are hunters, so we got moose and bear and all that, and we had some babies, so we had some that are just little kid stuff. But this time I bought 2 yards of everything, and I'm gonna make them just one by one. Instead of making sets of like 18 or something, I'm gonna put them on that people can buy them one at a time and make their own set of recyclable paper towels. So what we have to do first when you buy flannel is you have to wash it in hot water and dry it in a hot dryer so it shrinks and so that it bleeds and so everything gets done. So when they are just taking a few of these and putting them in with their regular wash load, they don't bleed or ruin the wash. Okay, so I'm going to do, I have about a dozen different ones here, and I'm going to do the lightest ones together first. Now normally when I wash for a quilt, I put all of the colors together, and if something gets wrecked I get it out of there and start over. But because one time somebody told me don't wash your quilt stuff first, and I didn't, and it bled all over the place. And the other thing is, when you have any cotton fabric, there's about 18 different chemicals in it, and I'm allergic to everything. And so it's just much safer for you, whether you have allergies or not, to get the formaldehyde and all the other chemicals out of the fabric. I'm going to wash it with like a lot of soap and hot water, and then I'll put it in a hot dryer. But I wanted to show you how I put them in the washer. I don't just throw in. I open them up, and then there's this like crease in all the material that's on a bolt. And you want to get that out because it'll crease itself in, and then you'll have a line through everything. So I open it up and I shake it down, and once I'm sure it's like that crease is out, see, here's that crease, you want to get that opened up, and then I put it in there. And rather than putting that all around in the washer, I put it like, I divide it in halves or thirds. Now this piece I happen to get 4 yards of because we have some symbolic things with dragonflies in our family, and I wanted to give them some of these. So this is going to be 4 yards instead of 2. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you wash it inside out or outside in, you just have to get that fold out. Alrighty. So let me see how full that looks. This one is a real pretty piece. It's got butterflies, and butterflies are also a significant thing in our family, but they're also significant for other people. So I thought maybe someone might buy these from my website. Okay. Now, coffee's on the dark side, so I'm going to save that one for the next load. And baseballs, these are white, but there's some gray in there. But I'll still put it in the white end. Sports are always a good thing, because if you're trying to get your whole family to use these paper towels, the guys might not like something that looks girly, although, you know, it really shouldn't matter because it's just a paper towel. These are some really cool dragons. And I have, my website is mostly reenacting stuff, like I weave ankle loom belts for powder horns and muzzle loaders, and there's a lot of patriotic folks that like my website and come there. So I got these red, white, and blue stars. I thought those were pretty cool for just anybody. And then we always have pet lovers, so we got paw prints, but there's a little tie-dye to it too. We'll put that in the dark. I really love this one. It's got all celestial kind of stuff, moons and stuff, stars. So I'm going to put that in the dark load too. This should go in the light load. This is Pretty Little Birds, and I think they're cherry blossoms. Now we don't want to like load this too much because we want the chemicals to wash off and not stay in there. Let me just see how much more I've got. Alright, this one is a good blue plaid. I mean, guys like that too, but anybody would use that. So you just try to, if you're doing this, find a variety, or if you know the specific people you're making it for, you know, you can look for things they have. Cats, dogs, hedgehogs, stuff like that. This one I thought would be good for the reenactors too because it's got teepees on it. So I can't wait to see how that comes out. There's another way that some people have written to me. They say that a lot of times this is going to get real stringy down the edge. That's not a selvage. And a lot of times one side will get real stringy and curl up and pull. And some people cut all of the corners like that right off there before they wash their fabrics. I tried that once. That does work. It does prevent the you know, fraying to a point. But I found out that I was losing an inch of fabric that way. And for these, I want to like rip off the selvages and the seams or the edges where it was cut to make them square. And then I just tear my towels so that I'm sure they tear square. Some material's not as good as others, but I still like the tearing method because I get a better edge. And what I'm going to do is serge everything. These are llamas. I don't know, I got a new llama fetish. But they're cute. They're directional though, I see. They're upside down, the ones I just showed you. Okay, so this is the last piece I'm going to put in here. And when I gave the gifts of these to people, I would mix them up, give them one or two of everything I had. But I'm finding out that some people like more of the same. Some people are telling me that they use them to wash their face with because they're so soft. And others are telling me they put them in their kids' lunch boxes for napkins, and then when they get them back they can rewash them, and they didn't put paper napkins into the landfill. So there's just getting to be more and more ideas that people have for them once they get them. So alright, I'm just going to put the usual amount of laundry detergent in there. Gotta do the dishes today too, I guess that's on my mind. Okay, and I'm going to wash these in the fullest load that my washer makes. It's called deep water wash. Okay, so I'm going to do this load. When I do the material, I do it on the one that gives the deepest water. Okay, and I also do hot here because I want these to shrink as much as they're gonna, because they're cotton, and flannel is kind of a loosely woven cotton, and I want it to shrink down so there's no problems once somebody buys them from me. The other thing I do is I spare no expense. I wash them in heavy because I want, seriously, the most time in the hot water to get the most dyes out, the most chemicals, so they're safer for people to use, and they're clear of as much of the chemicals as I can get out. So we're going to just let that do its thing. We'll come back and I'm going to put these into the hot dryer, and I usually put that on a setting that it's until it's dry, very dry, and then I'll come back down and I'll put these in the next wash load. Okay, so these light colored flannel pieces are now washed, and I just wanted to take them out and show you that some of them have like a string hanging on them here, so we're going to just tear that off. If it's a bunch of it, you can just cut it and then just loosen up the cloth and put it in. You don't want to just like throw it in like one hard piece like this, because that's going to take more energy to dry. So you always want to just shake it out, make them loose, and then right away when the dryer starts working, it'll be fluffy. Same with this one. these are actually pretty good. They didn't get too stringy on me. Sometimes there's a whole lot of strings and you have to cut them off, or sometimes you can just tear them without it hurting the material too bad. And the llama piece looks good. And while we're doing this, we're going to just throw in one dryer sheet. Just one. Some people can't be around the scents, so if you're going to sell washable paper towels, you don't want to make them smell too much. People have asthma and they can't be around dyes and odors and stuff, so keep that in mind. I know sometimes when I get material in the mail from someone, if I buy it on eBay or Etsy, they'll have a piece of a dryer sheet stuck in there, and I'm like, ugh. You know, I know I can only use one kind, or I have trouble because I have asthma, so, you know, I try not to put any kind of perfumes in anything anybody else is going to get from me. I don't use latex on anything, and that I can tell people for sure that I have not used latex, rubber gloves, or any of that. Okay, so this is our last piece. Everything is nice and fluffy in the dryer, and I'm just going to close the door and put it on the very dry setting, and off we go. Okay, so see you when we're ready to start tearing it and making it into the right size. Alright, you know, there's one thing to really remember when you are using a dryer and washing new flannel, that you get a lot of lint, okay? Now, you've got to remember to, every time you use the dryer for flannel, take the dryer catcher, or the lint catcher. Otherwise, you can end up with a fire. If this stuff catches on fire, you know, you're all going to be in trouble. Everywhere that lives with you, around you, everybody's going to have a potential to have a fire. So, anyway, I just want to make sure that you learn that safety trick. Now, when we get the flannel out of the dryer, it could be wrapped around each other or wrinkled up or whatever. And one of the things that makes making these paper towel substitutes so time consuming is that you do have to wash everything. You got to dry it. You got to fold it, and you may have to iron it. So when I take things out of the dryer, I try to shake them loose, and I try to fold them nice right away. You know, make sure you really shake that out of there, and then kind of smooth everything, all the lines out. And you may avoid ironing throughout the process of making them. But, you know, people think, oh, these are easy for you to make, and they are not hard to make, but they are time consuming because you have to wash, dry, maybe iron, then you have to cut them or tear them. I tear them because that's what I like to do. Okay, so now we have all of our flannels washed and dried, folded nicely, smoothed out, and now they're ready to cut into squares. So here is a pile of squares that I've already worked on, and we have cut them into 13 by 13 inch squares. There's all these that we had, and as we go here, we're gonna try to have as little of the cotton fabric go into the landfill as possible. So when I figured out the sizes, let's start there. Before I made the 13 by 13s, I made 12 by 14, or I tried to like take the material, see how wide it was, divide that by 3 or 4, and tried to use every morsel of it up so it wouldn't end up in a scrap heap. But what people really want is the normal size of a paper towel, which is 12 by 12. So I tried those this year for the holidays, and they were okay, but I thought if I make them 13 by 13, then when we serge the edges and just, you know, take a little bit off here and there as we use the serger, it'll still end up bigger than 12 by 12, and it's a nicer size cloth to hold. Okay, so for like these 5 kinds of fabrics here that I already cut into the squares, I want to show you what I have left. First, I have the selvage edges that are the printed stuff. These kind of things I use for packing when I'm making rugs or ankle loom straps. So these I will use. And these are the other selvage edges where they have the color on them. And also the very ends of the fabric that I tear to make the fabric square. I cut off the strings that are hanging off, and then I roll them into this ball too. Now these I use for mug mats when I weave mug mats, and that makes really nice and colorful little useful rug mug mats. Then after I have ripped the 3 rows of 13-inch strips before I cut them into squares, there was this little bit left. So these I'm going to save for bindings on pot holders, because you don't need that big of a binding. And the other thing I can do is use them for the mug mats too, because they're not that wide. But okay, so I'm just trying to show you how to save every piece that comes off of that material, because we don't want to waste it. Plus it costs money. Now these are the strips that after when I have the 3 strips of 13-inch pieces of material that are like maybe 5 or so blocks long that we're going to get the blocks out of, this is what comes off of the end if there's a little extra. So these I will definitely use in quilts. Now you can, if they're big enough, or whatever size blocks you're cutting for yourself, you can cut them into blocks, or you can use them in pot holders, or also in like crazy quilts. When I do the crazy minky quilts, this is the kind of stuff I use, because it's already cut and it's all usable. Okay, so I'm going to just show you on one of these pieces of material everything I do to each piece, and that way you'll have the best idea how to like make your own recycle piles and still have your claws that you can sell or use for yourself or use for gifts. One thing I did want to mention is a friend of mine, when I showed her these, she says, would you mind if I show these to the ladies at church? And I'm like, no, the more people we get using this kind of stuff instead of paper towels, the better. I'm not out here to make $1 million on just something that is a gimmick. I'm trying to seriously save the amount of trees we use, and also the amount of soap and water we use, because these you can throw in with any load. They won't make a special load by themselves. So overall, these are going to help people and help the environment, and the more people we get making them and doing them and passing out the idea, the better off we're going to be. So let's take this cute little fabric here with the deer and owls and everything. First thing I do is I cut off the selvages, so I really just tear them. So this side has white, and I'm just going to go just like a tiny bit into the color so I get all of the white off. Okay, so now I have that white piece, and that's going to get wrapped on to my ball with all the other printed or white selvages. Things I wouldn't use like really in a rug for a pretty color or anything. Okay, then we're going to go with the other side. And the selvage on the other side is here. It's you can see the white here, but it's also printed out to the edge. So in a way, I can use that in those mug mats I was talking about. Okay, so I'm going to cut that edge off. Okay, so I ripped off the selvage that had the printed on it, and if I fold it in half and roll it in a ball, and if I roll it in, keep it in half while I'm rolling it, this will be in perfect condition I need it in to make mug mats. I have a loom that it's like a 4 harness loom, but I can put on something like maybe 20 or 30 strands of warp, and then, you know, make these into mug mats that are about 3 by 4 inches. So I'm just gonna like fold it with the nice side out, so when I'm ready to weave I don't have to fold it. And then in this condition it's already starting to help itself to stay that way. Okay, now on this side, this is where the fabric was cut off the bolt, or from the piece before it, and sometimes they rip it, sometimes they cut it, so you just never know if you're getting a square piece. So I'm going to cut off all these little strings here, because then I will be able to use this piece to work into the mug mats, or to rugs if it's fat enough. So I'm just going to trim it. The idea here is not to have your fabric scraps end up in landfill, and sometimes they kind of have to, because there's no way you can square it up or save it, but make a good attempt anyway. And okay, so that's the last little piece there. If I do it now, it makes it easier for me when I'm going to weave. It takes less time that way, and weaving takes a lot of time. So alright, so I'm going to go about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch in, and see that ripped off because it wasn't squared up when they cut it off the bolt. So I'm going to take another 3/4 of an inch and see how I make out with that. Okay, and that looks like it's pretty even to the end, so that's terrific. And now while I have this in my hand, handle it only once, okay? Saves time. Roll that on to the same place where the same ball that you did with the colored selvage. Okay, so I'm folding this in half because I like to work with those 1/4 inch thicknesses in those mug mats. Alright, now we've just got one other side to do. So there's some strings here that, you know, as the cloth washes and gets dried and tossed around, it frays a little bit. So we're just going to cut those edges off. Because if you have to sit and peel all that off while you're weaving, it's very frustrating. So you just try to get the materials you need ready for the next project. And it's easier while you have the big piece to work with. Alright, so I'm just going to keep trimming these little guys off. Normally I would have gone through, ripped off this whole edge and thrown it out, but I'm finding there's lots of uses for every little piece of material. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing here. Take a 3/4 inch bite and tear it down and see if it's straight. That looks pretty good. Oh, but we got down to the end and it wasn't quite, it was just a little bit too small. So we'll try that, because the serger will cut that off when we're ready to do the edges. So the same thing here, we're going to fold this little piece of scrap in half and roll it on the ball. It's better to have the pretty color sticking out when you're ready to weave. Looks kind of nice. Sometimes, depending on what the colors are, I twist it with the back and the front showing. Okay, so now this we are going to put in the bag with the other balls for the mug mats. Okay, so now we're going to go to the end. That's where the material was cut, so that's the shorter end. And we're going to clip off 13 inches and tear the row down. So we get this right to the edge. And 13 inches is here. And then we just make a little clip and tear. And now the whole thing is going to be square because it's a straight tear and it's the weave of the flannel. When you get this kind of stuff happening at the end, clip them right away, because you could lose like 1/4 of an inch of your fabric right there. So we don't want to do that, so we'll just clip it and we'll throw those strings away. If you know somebody that makes paper, they can use those strings, so you might want to save those. Okay, here's the 13-inch mark again, and we're going to tear another row. Alright, and then we have enough left in the width for one more. Okay. 13 inches, and cut that. Okay, so now this is what we have left, and if it's wide enough for something like in a quilt block, and actually see some of the animals are showing up there really nice, we can either use that for binding on something like pot holders, or we can put it in the quilt pile. So I'm going to put it in the quilt pile because I'm going to make a quilt, a minky quilt for somebody, and all those will be pretty in there. Okay, so now we take our 3 strips that we just cut or ripped and make 13-inch snips on there. And I either rip them all quick right away and then put them in a pile, or I take care of them one by one. So I'm just gonna lay the nice square right there and cut another one. And I'm not really cutting, I'm really tearing. You can cut them, but I feel like when I rip them, I know they're perfectly square. Just because it was good flannel, it was woven nicely. And you can see that they're straight edges. I've had some flannel that gets all wonky and is not square, so those you probably should cut. But these are going to take a lot of wear and tear in the washer and dryer, and I don't want them to just get all out of whack, out of shape, I guess. So I think when I rip them that they stay in shape better. Okay, so this is our 3rd one. And if I take care of these ends here that pull in right away, when I'm serging, then I can just go right around it and I don't have to waste time doing that. So if you handle a piece once, you're saving your time. And when it gets down to trying to figure out the cost to sell these, you gotta really try to, you know, work your time out so that it's not being wasted, you know, trying to do the same thing twice. Okay, now I got one more piece here. I think I can get one more out of there. Alright, 13 inches. A lot of people use the cutters that are like, I call them pizza cutters, little rotary cutters. I can't use them because the mats are made out of rubber, some of them. There's a few that aren't, but I can't get the main company who makes the big green one to tell me if they have latex in or not, because they say it's a trademark secret. So the secret is safe with me because I'm not going to use it then. I have to know 100% what I'm touching, dealing with, and because of this latex allergy. So I don't want to have anaphylaxis over their green mat. And if they can't tell me yes or no that there's rubber in there, I'm not asking them for their formula or for their secret. I'm just asking them if there's latex in there, and they won't answer me. So I don't use anything with the rotary cutter. I'm just saying, it's just a little thing I know, and I'm just trying to spread the word, because it's dangerous to not be able to know. It's life-threatening if I touch something with latex, so I don't do with it at all. So anyway, we have this little piece left after we've cut or ripped 5 of these squares, so I'm going to put this in our pile with the quilt patch material. And I'm going to do these other two. I'm not going to take up your time on the video, but you saw how I did it. So I will finish ripping these. And after I get this other pile of fabric done the same exact way, we'll meet up at the serger and I'll show you how to finish the washable paper towel. Alright, thank you. We'll talk to you later. Okay, so last step we're going to do with our washable mock paper towels is we're going to put the serger edge on it and finish it off. Now, I used to take something round, like a spool here, and I would draw a pencil line or a chalk line on there so I get the same curve all the time. I did that for a while, and then what happens is the more you sew these things, the easier it is to just go around, and you get pretty consistent with the curves. So I always start in the middle of the cloth because there's going to be some thread there, and when we come around I'll show you how to finish that off. So you always keep the cloth right at the knife line. You don't kind of want it to always just pull off some little threads, because that means you've taken a bite of the whole entire cloth, and that will help it, give it more life, let it last longer. So we get to this little curve, we just go right around. You gotta make sure that you catch it, you know. I'll show you what I mean. If I went too fast on the corner and I didn't, you know, get a big enough bite, I would have missed this cloth here in the corner, and then that's just going to pull away. But on here, I got all of it. So that's what you're after. You want to make sure you get the most threads into your fabric. Let's see here if I can get a little closer. Sorry about that. Okay, so anyway, the back of this, you can see that we did a really good job serging that. And this same thing happened on this other corner. We got it all. You can also see it on the front, and you don't want to see too much air in that thread. You want most of it to be like, see, this isn't good. We're going to come back and come down further on that one, but that's because we just started it. So you just want to make sure you get a big enough bite, and you want it to be, you know, cutting something off just a teeny bit. If you don't have a serger, you can use the blanket stitch on a regular sewing machine, or zigzags, or some other fancy kind of stitches, but just make sure the entire edge is covered. I like the serger just because it trims it nice and neat, and it's like it does a lot of steps in one. Okay, so we are just sort of going right over the edge that we started at, and then we end up with a nice clean edge, and all of it is covered. Okay, so now what I do with these, if you want to make them to sell, sometimes you can press them. It's not usually necessary, but I sell them in just singles on my website. These will be on my website too. After you have these a while, you use them for a year, and you find out that you saved $600 or more on paper towels, you will see how really worth it they are. So anyway, when I send these to somebody, I make up a little card that says that they're like reusable paper towels with a quote, or recyclable paper towels, or non-paper towels, or unpaper towels. I've seen them called all kinds of things. But anyway, I put a little card with it, and I tell them like about how we're working one person and one towel at a time to save the planet. Everybody can make a difference, and I don't know, I try to make people feel good about it because it is a good thing. And, you know, we can't solve some big problems maybe, but if we all solve some little problem, smaller things, everything's going to make a difference. So I'll just run around this one so you can see what it looks like. Now, here's the other thing about the thread. I happen to have like 4 spools of blue, dark blue and navy blue, and that works good for those. And some things you're just not going to be able to even try to match because they're so colorful. In those cases, I use white or black, or sometimes I put 4 different colors in the serger threads, so it looks kind of festive and rainbowy and everything. It's all what you want to do, but if you're going to sell them, try to be really consistent with, say, this batch. I'll sew them all with the dark blue. If I'm going to do a mixed up color thing with like 4 different colors, then that whole batch of 14 or 15 towels I'm making, I use the same thread on, so that people are buying exactly what they see. You're going to get in trouble if you you can tell them, well, you know, they don't have a choice, but I'm sorry, I don't like things like that myself, because if I'm going to spend the money, I want to know exactly what I'm getting. So try to do everything very consistently. So if you have 14, you know, cow prints with like green grass, and you want to just make it orange and green and pink and blue, fine, but make them all exactly alike. So when you take one picture, it saves you from putting 14 different pictures on the website. Okay, you've got to be honest and truthful, and that's how you're going to get a better reputation and more business. So I'm going to just finish this one here. Okay, so that one, when we got to the end, we just went straight over it. Now this little locked out bit here won't really cause a problem. You can put some fray check on it if you think you don't want to deal with that, or you're not sure if it's going to stay. The thing about this is, if you're going to start using chemicals on it, some people are allergic to stuff like that. Like I can't have a lot of different glues and things, and I'm not even sure about fray check if there's rubber. I think it's not, because it's washable and it stays. if it's latex or rubber, it usually is something that can wash out, but you just never know. So just be careful. If you add chemicals to something, you have to tell the people so they don't get sick from your product. Okay, so we're just going to do this last one here, and then I'll let you go. Okay, so that's that. Now you've seen the 3 different kinds, and you're armed with all the right information to be successful at making these. Make a bunch for yourself and for your family, and try them out on people. Get some comments from them. I'll tell you, one of the things that helped me the most is they tell me what they use them for, because, you know, I don't use these to clean up an egg on the floor that I'm going to throw that slimy thing away. I'm going to use a paper towel for that. But you know, like people are using these to put in their kids' lunch boxes, and then they don't add a paper napkin to the environment, to the landfill. And the kid also has can make this into a little placemat while he eats, you know, or maybe they'll put two in his lunchbox, one for his little placemat and one for wiping things up, his sticky hands and stuff. So some people will take makeup off with them. You know, they're easily washable. They can always be washed in hot water and dried in a hot dryer, so there's nothing that they couldn't wipe up with it. You know, if you even use them to clean the bathroom, for instance, or a mirror, you can definitely wash those stuff off with your regular wash load. So, and that's the other thing, you don't make a special wash load for these. You just throw a couple in as you use them, and with whatever's going in the wash, and you know, it comes out really great. Okay, so I hope you make these. If you don't really want to make them though, I will have a whole bunch on my website and you can get them there. Just don't undersell yourself. Have some confidence in what you're doing. Don't let someone tell you they're not worth it or you're not worth it, because you just saw all the steps it took to get to this point. The washer, the dryer, the cutting, you know, and then the sewing, and then you still have to take the time to put them on a website, which is a real time sink right there. But we do it also with a true interest in our heart about saving the planet. And so you go save the planet and razzle dazzle your friends with these awesome washable flannel paper towels. Thanks for watching, and I really hope this is something you like to do and that you help save the planet somehow. And thanks a million for watching, and we'll see you next time.